Hey guys, welcome back to Dogforge. My name's Paul, and today we'll be continuing our look at the Unearthed Arcana playtest material for 2024. This is the Character Origins PDF, and today specifically we'll be taking a look at the feats included and how they're looking going forwards. Now you may be confused why I'm saying continuing when this appears to be the first video. I actually recorded a whole 45-minute affair for the races, and turned out the sound was broken, so that will be re-recorded up on the channel shortly. But anyway, let's jump on into Feat and what it means in 2024 so far. So of course we'll have a link to this playtest material down in the description down below so you can follow along. And overall we don't really need to reference too many things bouncing back and forth like you do with the races. So when we get into the feats, it should be pretty straightforward and we shouldn't need to bounce around the document too much. Now the first thing that we need to understand about feats is that they are level gating feats going forwards. This means that some feats will be designed to come in at first level, and other feats are designed to come in at much, fourth level and above. Now this does have a impact. It means that first level feats are designed specifically to be given at first level. They will never include, as of the current design paradigm, they will never include a bonus to an attribute. So no half feats like we've seen a lot of recently. Those will always be reserved for fourth level and above if that's how they keep the ASI feat system working. Secondly is that feats coming in at first level is primarily an effect of backgrounds now giving you a feat. They also give you your ASIs, but we'll touch on that a lot heavier when we go through the backgrounds. So every background gets a feat, and the default is intended to be that you create your own background. I personally do not think that that is made abundantly clear in the document, nor do I think realistically that's what a lot of people will do, as creating your entire background is more work and a lot of people don't have the time or desire to making a character take more time. So I think whenever you present people with a list of backgrounds, they will just choose. Now onto the feats themselves. I do like how they're presenting feats here. I will just say that they do break down the parts of a feat, the level that you need, any prerequisites, and if it's repeatable. And I find that this is a very nice, very straightforward format that I would like to see more of going forward. This is all very clear, and no matter what feat you're looking at, all of the information you need is there. So let's start off first with Alert. That is now a first level feat. It has no prerequisite and is not repeatable. So this now has 2 bullet points. Previously this gave a +5 bonus to initiative. The bonus to initiative now equals your proficiency bonus, so starting out at a +2 and ending at a +6. And instead of giving you immunity to surprise, you are allowed instead to swap initiative with somebody, a willing ally, at the beginning of combat. You cannot make this swap if you or the ally is incapacitated. Now the intent behind this was to make Alert less of a all about me feat and more of a team feat, and I quite like the thought behind that, and I think that they've actually done a very good job here. They had a clear intent in mind. They wanted to bring in the power level down a little bit so that it made more sense to get it at first level, because Alert's one of the more powerful feats. Excuse me. And they also wanted to make it more applicable to the party as a whole, and I think they've achieved this. In terms of the feats so far, I think that Alert is definitely nowhere near as powerful as it was, but that's the intent, and I think that they've done a good job for what they were aiming for. Next up is Crafter, no prerequisite and not repeatable, and this is the first kind of what were you thinking decision. This gives you proficiency with 3 artisan tools of your choice. When you craft an item using a tool which you have tool proficiency, you reduce the time by 20%, and you get a 20% discount on any non-magical item you purchase. So now let's point out what's wrong here. First of all, getting a discount on things you buy because you are a crafter does not make sense. It doesn't. This fits more in a merchant kind of feat, not a crafting feat. It's very disjointed. It will pigeonhole whoever takes this into being the party shopper, which is a horrifically gamifying thing to do. And this has no combat relevance whatsoever. And you might be thinking, well, it doesn't need to have combat relevance, to which I would tell you, yes, it does. Because if everybody is getting a first level feat, and most of those feats are combat relevant or significantly impact the mechanics of the day, be it combat, skills, or saving throws, whatever, then that is going to be far more useful and desirable than crafter. And you might have some people taking it because it fits what they want for their character, and that's fine. But those people will be at a disadvantage compared to the rest of the party. And I can see some people just having to take the dive, so to speak, and take this feat just so that the entire party gets the discount on stuff, so they can get their plate armor and whatever cheaper and earlier. This does not need to exist. I'm sorry, this does not need to exist. Healer. Now, Healer is one of my favourite feats in 5e. I have taken it many times. It has no prerequisite, it is not repeatable, and it is a gutted shell of itself. Originally, Healer had 2 bullet points. The first one allowed you to pick up a person from 0 to 1 hit point, provided that they had not benefited from the second bullet point, which allowed you to heal somebody, which was a formula of 1d6 plus 4 plus their level, essentially. It was a good amount of healing. It scaled with their level. It always felt relevant, and being able to pick people up was always useful. It was the only real source of mundane healing, apart from maybe the Banneret's adjusted second wind. They have now gutted that with the Battle Medic bullet point, which allows you to heal another creature within 5 feet of you. It still requires a healer's kit and expends a use. However, now that person can expend a single hit die and heal the roll plus their constitution modifier. Oh no, plus your proficiency bonus. That's even worse. Now, why is this a bad thing? One, the scaling here is pathetic. It is going to scale 2 to 6 across 20 levels when hit point bloat and damage bloat is a very real thing in D&D. Unless they substantially curb the damage numbers and the hit point totals in this 2024 edition, which they cannot do if it's backwards compatible, this does not work. This is a terrible thing. It also adds increased pressure on hit dice. Now, some people are like, well, we never run out hit dice anyway. Some people do. If you are taking this feat and you are using this to help heal people in battle or whatever, in between fights when you don't have time for a short rest, those people are going to be more likely to find themselves taking a short rest and not having enough hit dice to finish healing themselves. Or you'll come to try and heal somebody and find that you can't heal them because they're out of hit dice. I don't like this. There was no reason, even as a first level feat, there was no reason to change the healing that Healer provided, because it scaled very nicely throughout character progression. Otherwise, whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or this feat's battle medic benefit, you can re-roll the die if it rolls a 1, and you must use the new roll. There was no need, it's just my opinion of course, there was no need for the healer feat to benefit healers that use magic. There are class features and subclass features to increase the amount of magic your spells do. There was no need for the only source of mundane healing you can pick up with a feat to do anything with your spells. This is... it's not even a particularly large benefit. And it didn't need to be here. Healer, and this will be my feedback, I hope it's also your feedback, Healer could just be exactly the same as it is in this edition, just put in with the label of a first level feat. There's nothing wrong with that. Moving on to Lucky. And this is good and bad. Yes, you're thinking, Lucky, a first level feat? Yes. That's because they've simultaneously buffed and nerfed it. So, you now have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, so this is going to start off as lower 2 rather than 3, but it's going to very quickly outpace that. And instead of being able to re-roll, you now give somebody advantage or disadvantage after you see what they've rolled. So why is this important? Well, it's effectively a substantial nerf to Lucky. Now, before, if somebody had advantage, you could still force them to re-roll, or if they had disadvantage, you could force them to re-roll, and really emphasize your control of their dice. But now it's just advantage to disadvantage, and if that roll already had advantage, all you can really do, going off of the 5e rules, is neutralize it to a straight roll, which is better in my opinion. You get more luck points for this reduced ability, and that's good. My only criticism here is a wider criticism of this playtest document, and that is the over-reliance on advantage. Advantage was trivial to get in 5e as it is. There's a lot of class features that specialize in giving advantage, such as the Samurai Fighter, and their real emphasis is pushing advantage, not just with the Lucky feat, but with an inspiration in so many ways, shapes, and forms, as we'll get to in the Musician feat. And this pushing of inspiration and advantage in other forms is going to make advantage extremely cheap, and it's going to make it less interesting. And again, this is just my opinion, because advantage is just roll 2 dice. First of all, this is self-perpetuating with the roll a 20, get inspiration roll. But you get to this point where, okay, I'm flanking, and I have inspiration, and I can have my fighting spirit, and I have all these things. Well, you just have advantage. There's no way to go beyond having advantage. I doubt Elven Accuracy will see republication, especially with how prevalent advantage is now. So they would be much better suited to doing more interesting things. And I understand they want to stay away from all the little +1s and +2s of prior editions, but you don't need to let it get that rampant. You don't need to rely so heavily on advantage. It feels like they've moved on from temporary hit points to advantage in their kind of hyper-focus. In terms of what they're looking for in this UA, I think they've achieved it with Lucky. They nerfed it down to be good enough that you want it at first level, but not powerful enough that it's like, oh my god, you get it at first level. Like, the power level's about right, but I don't like this direction with advantage and disadvantage being so heavily relied on. Magic Initiate is exactly the same for all intents and purposes, with some minor benefits. You still get 2 cantrips and a first level spell of your choice from a list of your choice. However, you can now cast that spell with spell slots. You choose the modifier instead of relying on what the class's modifier is, because you no longer choose a class. And whenever you gain a level, you can replace that spell for a different one. That makes this feat incredibly flexible. It means that you can effectively just treat this as a spell known. And here's the big one, it now interacts with basically smashed together spell lists. In this document there are 3 lists: Arcane, Primal, and Divine. And that means that you're going to be able to draw from a much wider mix of spells, most likely, if they keep that. I don't think they should, because spell lists are identity, and in a class-based game, identity is kind of the currency. You need to have archetypes, you need to have identity, otherwise what is the point of having classes? Overall, this is just the Magic Initiative that we love and felt kind of okayish about previously, buffed up to where it should be, and shoved into the new paradigm. I don't like the new combined spell lists, but what they did with Magic Initiative is right, and I think this is a suitable first level spell. First level feat, apologies. Next up is Musician, because you wanted to be a bard, but you didn't want to be a bard. You gain proficiency with 3 musical instruments of your choice, and you gain Inspiring Song. This means at the end of a short or long rest, you play a magical instrument you have proficiency with, and you give inspiration to a number of allies equal to your proficiency bonus. Now, this is going to often be referred to as just giving everybody in the party inspiration, and you might think, well, this only starts out as 2 people, that's not everyone. But humans get inspiration on a long rest. Given that they both get that and a feat, it's quite easy to have multiple people with musician in the party to cover the entire party. And then even if you don't have multiple musicians, just having some humans makes it basically be everyone gets inspiration at the beginning of the day, and depending on your party size, once you hit 5th level, it may as well be your entire party getting inspiration. Now, this comes with a disclaimer that not everybody is going to want inspiration to the same degree. Somebody using attack rolls with a weapon, because you don't get critical hits on spells anymore, is going to have far more use and value for inspiration than somebody that just casts control spells or healing spells. Whilst it's still useful for everyone, you can still prioritize your musician benefit to certain PCs. And so when you see people say, give everyone in the party inspiration, it functionally acts that way once you hit 5th level and with the inclusion of humans. Next up, Savage Attacker. It's still not a good feat. It'll never be a good feat. It will only ever slow down the game and be disappointing. However, they did improve it now. When you re-roll your weapon dice, you can re-roll it twice and choose whichever version you want. So you have slightly more insurance insulation against rolling terribly, but it's still not really on par with other feats in this list. Skilled. This is repeatable. This is the first feat that we have. No, that's actually not true. I apologize, I didn't mention this at the time, but Magic Initiate is repeatable. You just need to choose a different spell list each time, and that is the only one that is repeatable. Okay, so Magic Initiate and Skilled are first repeatable ones. And this is very simple. You get 3 skills of which you don't already have proficiency. You gain proficiency in them. Simple, straightforward. This is the suggested feat for humans. They don't have to take it. It fits 1st level. It's not expertise or anything. And the value of expertise in a lot of ways has gone down with how they've changed grappling rules. So I think this is perfectly fine for a 1st level feat. Tavern Brawler. You might be thinking, Tavern Brawler, why would I want that feat? It's actually pretty good now. So no prerequisites. There's no need for this to be repeatable. Your unarmed strikes deal 1d4 plus strength modifier bludgeoning damage instead of the normal damage for an unarmed strike. When you roll a damage die for your unarmed strike, you can re-roll the die if it's a 1 and you must use the new roll. That is not limited to once per turn, so you are not particularly likely to end up rolling a 1 on a d4 when you're re-rolling it, if you ever do. Of course, that will still sometimes happen, but you're not often going to see that unless you're very unlucky. You now can shove. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn, you can deal damage to the target and also push it 5 feet away. Use this benefit only once per turn. This is similar to what we had in the Open Hand Monk in the original PHB for 5e, and that was tied to their Flurry of Blows. I believe theirs was further, though, is further at 10 feet or so. But being able to push 5 feet is pretty good, actually. And there's appeal here that I'll come back to after we do the last bullet point, which is furniture as weapons. You can wield furniture as a weapon using the rules for a great club for a small or medium furniture and the rules for a club for tiny furniture. This is dramatically simplified from the improvised weapon rules, which means that people are more likely to actually use it. However, what is furniture? where do you draw the line with what is furniture? That is going to be a new question people have unless they define it very cohesively. But let's look back at the feat as a whole. Now, this is going to be tempting for monks, and I know what you're thinking, but they already get a different die for their unarmed strike, and that's true, that's not giving them any benefit here. However, that's one of 4 bullet points. They're not really going to want to use furniture as a weapon. Some monks might, but as your damage die goes up as a monk, that 1 is going to feel worse. Rerolling your damage, even when you're making 4 or more attacks a turn, is going to feel really good. But being able to shove as part of an unarmed strike, when you're going to be making at least 1 or 2 unarmed strikes most turns, is a very effective little bit of control that you can bake into your monk at first level. If you were to combine this with something like the open hand monk, I don't see any reason why you couldn't combine the push 5 feet and push 10 feet for 15 feet. Now, you could say that you just take the most powerful effect. I don't see DMs really having an issue with making that 15 feet, but it also allows you to kind of do a Wing Chun kind of shuffling forwards, but machine gun punch, where like you punch, you knock them 5 feet back, and then you step forwards and you punch, and you knock them 10 feet back. This can actually make a lot of monks very viable control characters, entirely ignoring Stunning Strike. And I'm quite a fan of that. It is only once per turn, but it's once per turn, but it is still free control, and there are other ways to move people that you can rely on as well. So I think this is actually a good feat for a monk, and if you want to do unarmed combat and you're not a monk, I think this is a solid package. I'm very happy with this version of Tavern Brawler, actually. I am a little sad that the grappling benefits have gone away, as I think grappling is very befitting of tavern fighting. However, with their changing to grappling, there would need to be a consideration for how to apply benefit there. I personally think proficiency damage, at the beginning of every turn that they're grappled would be nice, but we'll see. And finally, we have tough, non-repeatable, no prerequisite, same as it is now. When you get the feat, your hit points, you get another 2 hit points if you're at first level. You basically get 2 extra hit points per level. I've always been a fan of tough. I see it get talked down a lot in various forum posts. Hit points are the ultimate defense. At the end of the day, they will need to go through your hit points to kill you. Even with things like power word kill, it's based off how many hit points you have. Somebody can paralyze you, leave you standing there. They still have to cut through your hit points. Traps, most likely still have to go through your hit points. Hit points are very valuable in my opinion, and being able to pick up tough at first level is very, very powerful in my opinion. You're going to start seeing a lot of dwarfs with tough getting 3 hit points per turn, which as a barbarian or even just a fighter or something is going to lead to some serious hit point numbers that kind of make me think that hit point bloat is still 100% on the table for 2024. So what do we think of the feats overall? I like the new format. I think that for some of the feats, like Alert and Magic Initiate, they are 100% nailing what they want to achieve. I think Tavern Brawler has come out of this looking quite nicely as well, but that is tied into the new grappling rules, which is... I can't honestly rate it not knowing if the grappling rules are going to stay as they are, because I do think that Tavern Brawler should influence grappling. As it stands, you need to make an unarmed strike to grapple, so you can, in theory, grapple and knock somebody like 5 feet away, but then you might also be knocking them out of your grapple. It's a bit of a mess. It's not clear if it would actually benefit. but overall, Tavern Brawlers come out beneficial. Healer is a shadow of its former self and a feat that I can't see many people wanting to take at all. Crafter is a disjointed mess that doesn't make sense and is going to actively be bad for the game. This is not the Citadel, that is not your favourite store, and getting a discount for buying things just questions why you're crafting anything to begin with. I support this notion of level gated feats. I support the notion of these are first level appropriate and you get a feat at first level. I am 100% behind all of that. But I am not 100% behind these lists of feats quite as how they are right now. And I'm not behind feats coming as part of a background. In my opinion, your first level feat should just be a rule separated from anything else, just like your ability scores. But that is what I think. What do you guys think of this new feat list? Do you like level gated feats? Do you like getting a feat at first level? Are there any feats here that you don't like the changes to? Do you think Crafter makes sense? Let us know in the comment section down below. Whilst you're down there, like this video if you like this content. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified of any more content coming in the near future. And it really does help the channel. And hey, it's free. Limited time only, maybe. But until next time, I've been Paul, and I'll see you at the Forge.